Hey, I just wanted to tell you that a minute ago in one of the clips that's in this video, I was talking about silk screening possibly being wrong and to check your caps carefully for polarity, because the ones that are usually installed on the chassis are correct. So usually you want to go by the capacitor and how it's installed as far as polarity compared to what might be screen printed on the chassis itself. And I just found an error on this chassis. If you see down in there, there's three small capacitors beside that large capacitor. There's a purple one, there's a baby blue one that I just installed. It's farthest to your left, and then the one that's kind of like above the purple one and to the right of the new baby blue one, it's kind of a darker blue. That's one of the original ones. It's installed correctly, but the screen printing underneath on close examination I just found out is incorrect. It shows the polarity as being wrong. It shows that, like, if this capacitor is not installed correctly, you know, it was supposed to be the other way around. But obviously this is from the factory. This capacitor is installed correctly. It shows the negative to the lower part of your screen. The positive lead is on the upper part of your screen. If you could, like, look straight through the capacitor, that's what I'm talking about. I know it sounds confusing, but either way, like right here, you see there's no capacitor installed there. Well, that is actually the way the screen printing underneath that capacitor in question should look. It should look like that. It should have the black half of the circle down here and the clear up here for the positive. But it's the other way around. It shows the black up here on top and the clear down here on the bottom. And the capacitor is installed correctly, but the screen printing on top is incorrect. And I confirmed it by looking underneath the board. Underneath the board there is a symbol for positive, and it shows on the lead of that capacitor on its positive lead correctly, you know. But I also looked, if you look right here, this is a blown up picture of my Neotec chassis that I recapped maybe a year ago or so, and this is the exact same location. Well, they're using the same circuit boards for several of their chassis, and even though mine's a different model, it's even a medium resolution instead of a standard resolution, it still has the screen printing all over it for all the capacitors for several different models. And right here is the one in question. It may be hard to see on the video, but this is C314, and this one says C315. And I've just installed this one, and it's just like this configuration. There is a negative right here and a positive here, and I just installed that capacitor. And even though I was going out of order, this one was so close, I said I'm going to go ahead and get this one. And then this is the purple one that you've seen in the chassis that I'm working on for Adidas 1984X. And this must be a bipolar. It's not in the kit to be replaced, and there's no specification for polarity here, so I believe that's a bipolar cap, and there's nothing in that kit to replace it, so that one's going to remain the same. But this one, it says C314. This black part on his circuit board is over here, and it should be just like this one is, and the capacitor is installed correctly, but the silk screening is wrong. And if you had got a hold of this and just took a bunch of capacitors out of it and decided you're just going to replace them all at one time instead of going one by one, you would have probably ended up with a capacitor there that would have blown up on you. You would have installed it backwards, and it probably would have popped as soon as you tried to fire the chassis up. Unless you were safe enough to look underneath it, and still would have been hard to see because it's a very tiny, tiny capacitor. I mean, it's like, let me show you. I'll get a hold of one. You see how tiny that is? That's pretty small. And the screen printing underneath is even smaller. But needless to say, watch out for your screen printing. It's not always correct. Do your capacitors one at a time. Try to put them back in according to polarity the same way the old capacitors are that you take out. And If one seems wrong according to the screen printing, do some double checking. Look at some schematics if you can get a hold of them. Ask somebody else with the same model chassis, or look at one with a similar model chassis, just like I'm doing now. The Neotecs, like I say, they use basically the same circuit board. They just put different parts on there for the different models, you know, whatever they need. Some of the parts are identical, some of them are different. But that's just something I thought was interesting, and figured I'd let you know about that. Just showing you again right there. I've got that capacitor out, and you can plainly see right there. Well, I'm going to turn the camera like what you're going to see on the screen in a second. But you got two capacitors installed there, and if you look right there, there's a capacitor missing, and if you look in the circle, it's clear on the right hand side and it's filled in black on the left hand. That's supposed to be for the polarity. That's incorrect. Now look on the screen here. Right there is the same one, and see how this is opposite. This is the other two caps that you've seen installed. This would be the purple one, that's the baby blue one that's installed, and this is the one that's missing. This is complete opposite of what's in there, and it's the exact same listing for the cap C314. So that is incorrect, and I'm going to install the new one with the same polarity the old one had, so it should be fine. Alright, we're completely finished with the capacitor kit install. That's all the old capacitors that we've removed there. There's 36 of them. There's a good bit on this chassis. And unlike my Neotec, I had this exact same type kit, and my Neotec had a few that wasn't used, I think about 3 or 4, but this chassis had every single one of them. So we installed 36 capacitors. Got them all out of the way. Have them all installed on the chassis there. All the baby blue ones you see are brand new. So we got it kind of ready for some new life, hopefully. Brand new capacitors on the neck board. Every one of them except for that one right over there. There wasn't a replacement in the kit for that, so it must not be a common fail capacitor. And we still have the old Flyback in there at the moment, but I'm going to run a test by hooking this chassis back up to that same tube again and making sure everything works, making sure I don't have any capacitors installed backwards, because they will pop if you do that. You have to replace them, make a mess too. And then we'll get this new Flyback installed, and hopefully it looks a little better just after the cap kit, which it looked fine before, but we just want to make sure it's working properly. And when he gets it back on his permanent tube, he should be able to notice a difference, some brighter colors and stuff, and you know, less interference. If he had any kind of static or anything on the screen, any kind of geometry problems, this kit probably corrected any kind of stuff like that, but I don't think he had problems like that. But we're going to cut now, and I'll show you when I've got the chassis installed back on this test tube over here, and we'll hook it up and test it out. I want to make sure it's working, let it run for a period of time before I install the Flyback. I could go ahead and install it right now, but I just would like to make sure, since we did so much soldering right now, and you know, along with all the joints that we had to repair before, I want to make sure everything's functioning okay before I go to the Flyback. That way I can isolate a problem. Make sure that, like, if I install the transformer, I might immediately think, oh, something's wrong with the, you know, with the Flyback transformer, and it might be a problem with the capacitor. So we can go ahead and isolate that right now. Okay, we got the freshly recapped chassis installed back on this test tube again. Got the anode connector connected back up. We've got the degauss wire connected back up. Got the neck board back on. Got that makeshift ground connected back to the ground for the frame. We've got our yoke wires reconnected, if you can see right back there. And I think that's about all the connections. And to connect it back up to the cab, got to hook the power back up. And we got the signal wires we got to hook back up. A little hack I made for the signal wires. Once we do that, we can set it up and turn the Mortal Kombat machine on, see what our results are from the cap kit. Hopefully no caps will pop and everything will come on okay. We just want to make sure this is working really good. Run a little burn-in test for a while before I put the new Flyback in, and hopefully that'll take care of all the problems. And hopefully I haven't installed any caps backwards, which I'm very careful, so I don't think I have. We'll be back with the results in just a few minutes. Okay, we got the wires for the monitor connected back up to the cabinet. Got the signal wires and the power there connected up, and we're going to fire the cabinet up, see how she does. And I'm going to go ahead and cut this bright light off that I've got here. And hold on, bear with me while I reach back and find the power on the cabinet. Hopefully nothing goes pop, but I'll hold this here so you can see it go pop if it does. Okay, back around here. The gang's booting. I heard the monitor fire up. Nothing has obviously went pop yet. Hey, we've got an image. And again, the color's going to look a little funny because this is a test tube I'm using, and the blue gun is about out on it, so you don't really get much blue output. And also the yoke wires are reversed, the vertical and the horizontal yoke wires. But I just didn't want to crack that connector. I could have reversed them and corrected that, but we're just looking for the output. We want to make sure it's good and crisp and everything like it's supposed to. And we've got output on it, of course. Looks a little bit dark. It hasn't warmed up much yet, but came on pretty quickly. Let me go ahead and cut some more lights out in this room. One more light, hold on, if I can reach it back here. Okay, at least I didn't have any bad capacitors installed backwards or anything. We got an image. Again, not much blue, but that's to be expected from this tube. I see greens and reds pretty good. Looks nice and crisp. Really good focus on it. Probably doesn't show in this video very well, but it's very crisp looking. I can tell immediately that these capacitors have improved the sharpness of the image. Oh yeah, a whole lot. Just looking at Kano, I always look at him and in his face and everything, the details I see on that metal plate over his eye and everything. Looks better to me. Let me go ahead and do a little bit of adjustment to this image and go into the test modes here, and I'll be right back. Okay, I just did a little bit of adjustment on the brightness and contrast, and went onto the Flyback and adjusted the screen and the focus a little bit. Focus was almost dead on. I just barely had to adjust that. I went ahead and turned the screen up. Well, first I turned the brightness and the contrast almost to max, and then I went back and turned the screen control up on the Flyback, and I really had to turn it up to make the screen really bright before I started seeing those diagonal lines, and that's what Adidas 1984X was having some trouble with. And I did see that before the cap kit. Every once in a while when I would turn this on to test, I would see those lines, and I could adjust the Flyback, and they would go away, and up to 2 hours at a time I wouldn't see them come back. And that was probably because of my initial repairs. But now with the cap kit, I mean, you have to turn that screen control way up to see those diagonal lines, so I don't think that's going to be a problem anymore. But we're still going to change the Flyback out, and we're just in the test menus here, and like I said, this is all upside down and backwards just because of the yoke wires right now and the connector I have. I would have to either remove the wires or crack it to twist them around and do it a different way, and I just didn't want to do that unnecessarily because we're just testing the output and all. But like, there's your red, and it's going to be all flickery and funny looking on this little digital camera, but that's your red. There's your green. And your blue gun is practically dead on this monitor. I don't even see any blue output. It was really weak the last time I had it in the Mortal Kombat cabinet, so it's probably got even worse emissions now. The only other thing that would have you miss a blue like that would probably be the blue drive transistor, and I can double check that on the neck board, but I seriously doubt that's a problem. I might even take this chassis and put it on another weak tube I have that does have output on the blue, red, and green, but all three are weak, and I don't think it's going to be helped by a rejuvenation, even though I do have a rejuvenator, because I can't even get it calibrated on the rejuvenator to do any kind of test to the emissions as how low that other tube is, and this one at least has good emissions on the red and the green. And then of course your color bars are going to look funny. You know, they're bright and everything, but they're going to look funny because no blue's in there. So you've got your red and your green over here in the center of the screen, and then all these colors over here, they look, you know, off because there's no blue mixed in with them. They should be other colors like purple and stuff like that. But the black level looks good. The brightness of the green and the red looks really good. If this tube could display blue, if the blue gun was good, I'm sure it would look great. And I can tell, to me, a really big difference after I put the cap kit in as far as the clarity. And I mean, the colors aren't bleeding at all right now, and I have the contrast and the brightness almost wide open. I can turn them wide open right now. Got the adjustment board right here. Now that's brightness wide open, and you see the colors, if you can tell in this video, they aren't bleeding together or blooming. And here goes the contrast. That's wide open right there. That's contrast wide open and brightness wide open. And you know, this video just doesn't do it, you know, justice really. I'm going to turn the brightness back down, contrast down just a little bit, just so it looks pleasing to my eye. That right there should be about where you'd want to play it at, I would think. And we're going to go ahead and I want to flip the test switch off. You don't have to go back to the menus, you can just flip the switch. And that screen looks great because there's no blue in it. And to be honest, that even looks pretty good. That's gray. But if you start getting blue colors on the screen and stuff, you'll probably see that the blue's missing. Looks really good to me. Good clarity on the text. Shoot, that screen looks great to me. Sub-Zero and Raiden's background looks a little bit greenish instead of bluish though. Looks pretty nice though. I think the cap kit has been installed successfully, no problems. Hadn't had anything burst in the back. Let me cut a few lights on in the room here. No capacitors popping or anything, so everything's working as expected. I'm going to let it run for a while, make sure things are doing like they're supposed to. Shoot, even that screen with Goro, it's got a little blue in the background. You know, it goes dark when the text comes up, but it looks really good. And we've got half the lights on in the room right now. Not too shabby. So we're going to let it run for a test for at least an hour or two, and I'll come back later, remove this chassis, and get to work on his new Flyback. Okay, I just wanted to confirm with you guys that the blue output transistor on the neck board is fine. If you look right there, you can see the blue output. It's very, very weak on this tube, like I said. The red and green are just fine. Oops. Kind of changed my screen there, but yeah, like you can see on those menus there, they're highlighted in blue. And that sound you hear in the background is my bird. He's in there raising Cain, but we'll go into the monitor patterns. And this is a blue screen. You can kind of see there's a haze of blue. it's not very strong. And we can go into the color bars and see, now you can see that bar does have some blue in it. Still not enough blue to get these colors like they're supposed to be. They should be like a purple over there, or pinkish and something else. And I had to turn his gains for the blue way up just to see this. So the blue gun is just completely shot in this monitor. I wish I could rejuvenate it back to life, but I've had this thing on the rejuvenator once or twice, and I didn't turn the voltages up much for the G2 and all. I heard you could do that, and the heater voltage, and I just didn't do it. I might try that in the future before I throw this tube out, but it's pretty good for a test tube. It's just, you want to be real careful. If you're testing a chassis that has a problem with the blue output, then you know this could cause some trouble. But I'm pretty sure his is fine. It does have blue, so I may test this on another tube before I send it back to him, but I don't think there's a problem with that. I'm going to turn his gains back to where they were. I made note of that, and just wanted to show you that the blue output is there. It sure is there, just like the menus show and all. Just very weak on this tube. Okay guys, we got the chassis loose from the test tube. Got it sitting back on the work table here, and we got to get the old Flyback out and get ready to install the new Flyback. And first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the focus wire here. It goes to the socket for the tube, and you just have to pop a couple little clips loose and lean this back and desolder your focus wire, and then the G2 wire here that comes from your Flyback, have to desolder it from the net board. And I actually did repairs on both of these, because this one right here was kind of frayed, and this one in here must have been a little frayed, because as I was moving the neck board around and putting the new capacitors on it and on the chassis, it actually come loose out of there. I opened it up and it had just broke loose, and no biggie, I just repaired that. But we're going to just undo the repairs so we can install the new ones, and we'll pull them loose from these zip ties here, and just slide them out and leave the zip ties intact to hold the other bundle of wires coming from the main chassis for the moment. And we can probably just slide the new wires from the new transformer back up through here, and maybe give a little pull on these to snug them back down in case they're a little loose, but they should fit in just the same way. And once we have these two wires loose, we can desolder all the points on the bottom of the Flyback transformer, and hopefully it'll just pop out of position and we can get to putting the new one in. Alright, we got the focus wire loose from in here. That's it right there. And the G2, which was soldered on right at that black point you see right there, we got it loose. Got it desoldered. Right now we're going to go ahead, and this is the top of the Flyback here on the circuit board, and there's a mounting screw that helps just mount it a little more securely and take some of the stress off of it just being soldered to the main circuit board. And it's mounted to this metal plate here with one screw, as you can see right here. And unfortunately, I've already contacted Adidas 1984X about this situation. He did get a compatible Flyback transformer, and it is listed on some sites as being the correct one for this chassis. And as far as mechanically and everything, or electronically, it's supposed to be compatible just fine. The casing is just slightly different, and if you see on top here, right there is where that screw is supposed to go in. Well, the one that's mounted now, it's over a little further. It's on this side of where the anode wire comes out of the top of the transformer, and this one is to the left. And if you can, let me see if I can turn this where you can kind of tell. See, if we're looking like that, see where the screw is, and then look at the transformer. See the top of it? There's this anode wire, and that mount comes off on the right hand side of where the anode wire is, and his comes off on the left hand side, so it's not going to line up with that same position where that screw is. But I do believe that it may line up with that hole right there. And if this screw, if the threads on it are small enough that they will go through there without having any problem, they may line up properly with the plastic mounting post that's at the top of the casing for this transformer, and we'll just use that. And if the screw's a little too big, then what I might do is just get a drill bit and just drill that out just slightly, just so it's enough to, you know, let that screw line up. And hopefully the screw will be long enough too, because the mount on here sticks off, that looks like about 1 inch from the top of the casing, and his is a little shorter. It looks like about 1/2 to 3/4 of an inch. So if the screw reaches, it'll probably be okay. If not, I might have to put some type of a bushing or something in between there. I'm sure I can find something, just so it'll tighten down good and there won't be just empty space between the screw and here. Or I may just have to get a whole nother screw to thread into this piece of plastic, and that shouldn't be a big problem either. We just want to give it a little more, you know, a little more of a secure mounting, so it doesn't have all the pressure on the pins on the bottom of here that will be soldered onto the circuit board. But be back in a few minutes and maybe show you some of the progress on getting that screw out, and starting on the pins on the bottom that need to be desoldered. Okay, we got that screw out that mounted the old Flyback transformer, and it came out of that little hole there. Now this one down here that I was hoping I might be able to use is too small. The threads on this screw are just too big, and you can get the tip in there, excuse me, you can get the tip in there, but it will not thread on through. It's just, I mean, you could probably turn and force it, but you'd end up stripping this screw. I'm sure that metal there is probably a little tougher than the threads on this screw, and it's not going to go in. It's just too tiny. And if I go with the screw with threads any smaller than this, it looks to me like when you put them in this connection here, you see this screw actually just goes straight up in there, you know, maybe about, I'd say about close to 1/4 of an inch before it starts grabbing. And there's no threads inside this plastic. It threads its own pathway when you tighten this screw in. The coarse threads on this screw do. So it looks like what I'm going to have to do, since that doesn't even get a bite till it gets that far, and there's actually that much space between this plastic mounting post here and the frame that we need to attach it to, I'm going to have a longer screw. And since the threads need to be this coarse to fit in here and tighten down good, most likely what I need to do is drill the hole out in the frame right here just a little bit, if that position lines up perfectly. So I'll just get me a metal drilling bit and just drill that out just a little bit, and just enough so that a screw with this size thread and this coarse of thread will go right in there. And I'll just find me a screw that's just a little longer than this too. So I've got plenty of spares in a case somewhere, so I can look through those. And like I said, it's just, you know, it's just something to give a little more support. It would probably be fine without it, but, you know, I think it'd be better to go ahead and get it done.